Good morning, good morning, good morning. All righty. Welcome to Mystic Ministering and a little bit of musing. Oops. A little bit of musing. Put my orchid down here. There we go. So you can see it. Move myself around a little. There you go. All right. As people are coming in, getting everybody on board. So it's a new time and day. I said I'd be on at 9:30, but I felt the urge to come on earlier. So welcome. Let's just make sure everything's going fine, and then we'll start. What are we going to do today? How are you? What's going on? Tell me. And then I'll see whether we have aligned once again. We have aligned. I have all sorts of props and things going on here. We're going to have a little, I don't know what to call this, a little temple time, a little mystic, metaphysical musing, a little chapel, little temple, a little blue, a little ancientness, a little remembrance, a little worship, and a little education. Okay. Is that enough? Oh, no, it's not enough. A little anointing. And if you can see, it says Queen Esther. So any of you who have trained with me in that aspect, and these are anointing oils. I have a bunch of them. I haven't shown you yet, but maybe I'll start bringing them out. They're anointing oils from Israel. So the olive oil is from Israel. So relevant for Queen Esther. Why Queen Esther today? Anyone? Maybe a couple of students that they are actually the ones that I was talking to yesterday aren't here that I can see. Maybe they are. Oh, hang on. Maybe. Why today? I wonder why. Why today? Yes, you are here. Do you know, Nicole is watching, do you know why today, why I have shown up today? Can you remember? Probably not. I sort of took you on a big journey yesterday, but anyway, she'll tell you. I'm just waiting because she's on the Facebook, which is down here. Maybe I could put that up here, but it will get in the way of Instagram. All righty. I don't even know where to start today. Maybe we'll start with the gong, with the bell. Let me just see these comments. Street parties. All right. Well, we have so we have gates all the time, right? Oh, actually, Nicole just said that. I'll go with the gates open. Interesting. No, yes and no. So yes, I did talk about the gates, particularly gates yesterday. And yes, so if you are, like, my eyes are already crying, so that's a good sign, those that know me, because spirit's coming in. There's lots of little butterflies on this. I don't know if you can see it. Now, there's a reason why. See the butterfly clips on the orchid? There's a reason why. I'm going to give you the picture, and I'm going to share it in a way that you can utilize. I'm a practical mystic. So everything that I share in some way, shape, or form at some point in your life, you'll be able to implement, right? To assist you. Like, why even follow me? Why listen to me? Why do what I'm asking? Not that I ask much of you. What I do is I offer options of how to connect deeper and more intimately with yourself, with your life, with the aspects of the beloved. And that will help you in all your relationships and every aspect of your life. Who would like that? So someone said, I heard of the Lion's Gate at the beginning of last week. Yes, so there's all sorts of energies, opening and closing, opening and closing. And there's one that's on the 21st is in full force. So those of you that might have had some disruption, it could be that. And what I've been hearing, because I hear the magnetics field, so I hear the magnetics in the field, which link to space weather, what's going on in the ionosphere, like, and how that hits the earth, and then how that interacts with us little humans. So I don't know if you know that. I used to teach about this all the time. So, I mean, I think that sometimes I go, should I say that again? I've told them a million times, but I might have told you 10 years ago when you didn't know me. So I've got to stop doing that and actually keep sharing. So depending on where we are in our development and what we're moving through, what our beliefs and conditions are, aka like what our trauma has been or is, and how we're able to, and I say able because it might be because we don't know yet. It might be something you find out today, or we're still in it. We're still in the muck of it, right? And if you're still in the muck of it, I celebrate you. Yay. Let's go there, right? If you need help, reach out. Doesn't necessarily have to be to me. But if you're not coping, reach out. Reach out. Think of 5 people you know, even if they're not friends. 5 people. That used to be a safety thing with when I worked with children. So who are your 5 safe people in like, right? One of them can be me, if that helps. Now you only have to think of 4, right? And one might be your dog or your cat. And we'll add Hamish in Rebel today when we get to the next bit. Speaking of beloved fur friends. Oh, I can feel strong. Okay. So when this energy shifts, some people relate it to the Schumann resonance, the heartbeat of the earth, the pulse. So if we look at it just like that, because it's easier for people to label or language or categorize to understand, at a certain level of mind before I take you to the next minds, right? So I'm going to start with the Schumann resonance if you don't know, because that's something you can look up. So when that pulses out or pulses back, so when that raises in frequency or lowers in frequency, you will feel it one way or the other. So some of you might feel it as it's rising. And when I say feel it, it's not good or bad. It's just how you experience it. Because in the past, I would say, as it's rising, you might feel ananda, bliss, love, like high, right? Awesome. And the other people down the street or next to you or your partner is like suffering like nothing else. How that frequency moves and interacts with your energetic systems. Okay, so that's why I said, all right, we've got these energies happening. Everything is energy. It's happening all the time. Sometimes our lower mind needs to just have something to hang on. And there'll come a time when there's nothing to hang on, but you work to that. You work to that. Have you heard me talk about that? Probably not for a long time. I'm going old school mystic these days, aren't I? And I think because a lot of you are sort of newer in the last sort of 5 years, maybe. I've been teaching this stuff as long as I can remember. I was talking about it yesterday in class. I was talking about the sounds, the spheres, and when I was starting to acknowledge what I was hearing was not a problem as such, it was data, information, and then going on my journey to find out. And my teachers would tell me incorrect information, right? Neither here nor there. Love them, still love them. They weren't on the mystic path. They were not getting the information in the way that I do. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. Those of you that are here, some way, shape, or form connect to how I am, I are in the world. Otherwise, I don't know why you would, unless I'm entertaining. I can be entertaining. I've been told I can be entertaining, but that's not why I show up, right? So I'm assuming that some of the stuff now and then that I share with you resonates in some way. Okay. My job here is to, and it's come in even stronger lately. So I'm going to go all over the place a little bit because I can feel the channeling, and then I'll get into why I thought I was showing up, but maybe that wasn't why. Oh, you put some earplugs in to listen and realize my left ear is beginning to hear. Yeah, it's not your ears though. It's not your ears. But it'll feel like your ears. And some of the teachings will say, try to listen from the right ear. They'll prefer the right ear. Don't listen. I mean, you can if you want. That's a particular yoga lineage. What I'm going to tell you is, I guess, I jump some of the information so that you can get in quick, right? You can get in quick. So continue to do that. Or, you know, there's ways of closing all the holes in your face, right? You can still breathe, but, you know, you sort of just got your fingers there. That's a yogic sort of this way, and you listen, or you can have however you want to do it, right? But back in the day, I used to ask students to put earplugs in, not to listen to music or anything like that, actually to cancel out the external information so that you can see that it's internal information, internal data. And this is how I didn't use earplugs myself. I was just activated, right? So that's my core as a mystic. The sounds of the spheres, the holy naam, the ek, the sound of the beloved, the direct access, and there's ways that you can use that to go there. So I'm not going to sort of go into a teaching necessarily today. Suffice to say, the sound brings the vision in particular ways. So most people preference the vision. I preference the sound. I don't care what I see. I do see the gateways. I see what they're doing, but they're not the gateways that most people talk about. And at this point in time, I haven't met anybody who sees them the same way, so I don't teach it. I feel like it's just what I'm here to do and be, and I'm no better or worse, and it's just my lot in life. So I've accepted it after a lot of complaining and kicking and saying, you know, I want to be an artist. Why do I have to go off and do these weird and wonderful things? I've accepted it. I'm here. So listening. Actually, I was teaching some of this yesterday, and next month we're going in deeper. But for now, what is out there to the public so far, you know, I can share. It's just that some of the teachings are, you know what? For me, it's like trauma work, right? For me, it's like trauma work. Because when we go deeper or more extensive or more advanced, however you want to look at that, into, let's just call them teachings, we need the infrastructure there. And I can't monitor you, right? If you're here, and that's why I like you on Zoom, if I've got more of you on Zoom and I can see you, I'll take you deeper, because I can then, titrate you if something comes up, right? So what I teach you free on lives and whatnot is what's, safe and I know works. But how you get deeper from me is when you ask questions, or when we have dialogue. I won't put out my treasure, right? Not necessarily mine. It's not mine at all. Comes through the blue, right? We'll get there in a moment. It's not about doing that. I won't do that. I have reverence for the teachings. It is my role to come back in. The blue has shown me again that I'm to teach. Why? Because at this point in time, 2,000 years ago, it was said that the teachings on the blue were to be disseminated. There is no accident. There is no accident why and what I have been teaching you. Good morning, those on Instagram just coming on. Welcome, welcome. There's no accident. I thought, oh yeah, maybe this is just, like I said, entertainment or whatever. No. This is what has been coming into me for so many years now. Maybe 15, could be even 20. It was 15 when I really started to look and share conscious evolution, the evolver, the ways that spirit was showing me, right? So the sound of the spheres, or how we hear vibration. I was telling the ladies yesterday that everybody has a sound, music. Have any of you noticed it? So one way you can notice it, especially those of you that are trained in mediumship or trance, those sorts of things, because they're the same skills. How I teach it anyway, I tend to teach it differently. Neither here nor there, but just what I know, to almost like stacking the processes, so that no matter what area you go, you have information, okay? Just before your phone rings or plays music or whatever they do these days, right? My phone never makes a sound. Just saying. You want to ring me, call me, whatever, message me, or leave a message. My phones I've got 2 phones here. They're always on silent. Why? Because I'm either doing a live, or I'm studying, or I'm teaching, or I'm sleeping. And I talk to people all over the world. They don't know what time zone I'm in, right? So I just learned it's always on silent, but I check my phone regularly. So, and my emails most of the time, right? So, so I don't know if that's helpful to anybody, but I will hear. I can hear the different sounds. And I noticed over many, this is years ago, that when certain people would call, I would hear a certain sound, like maybe 30 seconds, 20 seconds before I'd see the phone light up, right? And, I don't know if you know this about me. I am a researcher. I'm an academic. I am a thinker. I'm, and I'm a skeptic, right? I'm a skeptic. I don't go to meetings. I think I've been to one professional, and that was because my friend, I don't know if you're watching, Alex, from many years ago, who I used to teach. She was my first student because I worked with her. She was a social worker. She did the trauma stuff with me, right? And I'd come in the morning and I'd go, you never guess what? She'd go, what? And I would just teach her all of that. She was my first student. And she was the first to start seeing the blue. She was the first to start. She would have dreams about me, and I would come to her in her sleep and teach her. A lot of my students in the early days, they would say to me, and I used to laugh and go, yeah, right. You know, yeah, oh, yes, you think you saw me in your dream. And then I realized, no, because I'm their teacher, I teach them through different time, space and whatnot. It continually happened. And then I heard one of my teachers say something similar. But I would say to her, she would have precognition dreams about me as well. And I would say, and she would push them away, and I'd say, no, tell me what it was. And I had to laugh every time because it didn't make sense to her, but it made sense to me. And those of you that have done the intuitive studies know that I'll say, it doesn't matter, whatever you get, share with the client, because it won't make sense to you often. But if you don't corrupt the information, right, they will get it, or they'll get it later on. So it took a long time to convince her, not convince her, but show her the evidence that what she was doing was precognitioning my life, right? She would say, yeah. So I didn't ask her all the time because I don't live like that. I don't really, you know, I get my own information, but I am a little bit of a skeptic. And what I'll do is I'll be curious like that, and I'll show the evidence of it. Right. So those of you know, I'm very onto evidential mediumship, and that's why, because that's how I work. You know, I'm not a sucker. And when I work with you, I don't expect you to be either. So there needs to be ways of knowing that can be evidenced to a point. When I'm talking about the blue, so I don't know if Nicole's still on, but yesterday when I was teaching the stuff, it's like, I find it amusing, because if I was the student, I'd be like, oh, for God's sake, just tell me. But a mystic will give you direct experience. So what I'm doing is telling them a process and not telling them what they're going to see or experience. I tell them after the fact. I want you to have your experience free of any corruption, right? And Rebel's nodding, you know that. I'm like, so just do this and let's see what you get. And then, you know, you'll all tell me, and I'll be like, and then I'll say, you know, what is expected with those sorts of techniques or whatever, or as you practice the different layers that you'll experience, witness, observe. And, you know, right or wrong, it doesn't matter. That's just how I teach, always have. It's a powered way, not an empowered way, because it's your power anyway. So it's just a powerful way that you can feel your own knowledge and your own wisdom and your own achievement, right? So that's how I used to teach my kids too, and I don't think they liked it at all. They'd come home from school and ask me questions, and I'd say, well, there's a library of dictionaries, anthropological dictionary, psychological dictionary, political dictionary, what else? All sorts of, because I was an academic. And I'd say, so look up that word in all of those different dictionaries, which are like this, and they give you a whole pack, you know. I don't know if you've seen those dictionaries. They're not normal ones. They give you the, you know. But I taught them to learn. They'd say, oh, Mum, the teacher said this, and that's not what you say. So is the teacher wrong? And I'd say, look it up, make your own decision, right? And usually what the teacher would be saying is something against, or basically discriminating against something of our way of life, right? How our belief system or our non-belief system or whatever it was, right? So I never told my kids, my girls, what to believe. I modeled for them so that they could then choose, right? And there was all the information there at any point in time. They could go to that bookshelf. I miss that bookshelf. But we got Google now, right? So whatever. Back in the day, we didn't have any of that. So where was I? My eyes are really watering today a lot. This is, it is really warm here, and I've got the fan going, so it might be why. All right, so Mercedes saying, I found some of my notes from 2001 and they helped me understand that my energy was off because of the people around. I didn't have the experience before, but now I have the experience of your guidance. Awesome. Awesome. It's funny, some of my students, I was like, it's one in particular I'm thinking of, she took such good notes, still takes notes. And I'm like, oh my God, you could write my book. I mean, for certain classes, like even Psy that we had yesterday, you know, this whole 10 months is so much information that I'm having to make booklets for them because I can't cover it all, right? But even still, what we discuss and what we experience isn't in those booklets and isn't in the videos. Do you see what I mean? Like there's just so much more all the time, and I don't document it. So that's just my way of working, because it's sort of like, well, once it's done, it's done. So I'm looking at, not necessarily for me, for you that have asked, to bring it a little bit more into those manuals, I guess, so that, you know, and reflection. They get a lot of homework these days, personal homework. They don't have to do it, but it's there. I encourage it. All right. So where are we going today? The blue. The blue, the blue, the blue. Any questions or comments on any of that? So we had just to touch in, how do we keep stable with all these ups and downs of energy? So just about to finish that off. Yeah, I feel strong, but when something will come in. All right. Multiple layers of answers for that, depending on where you're at. So let me go back to that, because it was just what I was about to say, not necessarily the how, but understanding and accepting, because all it is your fear. In a nutshell, let me pull that out. Man, my eyes are crying. Might turn this fan around a bit, because I think it's the wind as well from the fan. All right, so what I said is, when that energy is ebbing and flowing, or just in your everyday life, so what happens? So what happens when your energetics are impacted? What comes to mind? I'm being cryptic. I want the students to think about it. Even if you're, you know, you're not in a formal class. This is something I've talked about for like 30 years. So, all right, I'll say it this way. What happens in the nervous system? So when I talk about fear, yeah, Rebel just got it. I saw her face. That's why I like to see you. She said like a yes and aha. All right, so I'm going to let you know now that, you know, you see, I want you to think. I want you to have your own ahas, you know, your own, like, and then I can tell you what I was sort of alluding to. All right. So there's parts of our energy system that are out there like a sniffer dog. Let's just put it that there, or, you know, a forward scout in the infantry. There'll be a forward scout. It's the one that's way out front and is moving through the field, you know, giving information back to the rest of the people, right? There's an energy that does that too. Now, for some of you, that will go so far out that it will disconnect from your body, particularly your chest. So here you go. Is this reminding you? Yes, yes, okay. So the ones that I can see, you're nodding, right? So some of us have an energetic that see, I don't want to go there today, but it won't hurt if you all do it. Let's just all do it. But there's some of us that this happens to more. I was one of those people, highly sensitive, and the reason why is because my aura goes so far out. It just goes and goes and goes. But it also was disconnecting from the physical here at the higher soul heart. The aspect of that energy, it will disconnect here, meaning that you're going out and getting all of this information. So it's just such an influx of information, but it's not filtrating very well through the aura, and it hits you. Right? So you sensitives, listen up, because it's like it hits you. Now, what does hit you mean? Symptoms, all the symptoms that you can throw at me, all of them, right? So how you can make sure if you're a highly sensitive person or you have sensitivities, even if it's just now and then, you're probably not earthed for a start. Even if you tell me that you're doing all this fancy earthing stuff, if you're not electrically earthing by flipping the hands at least 3 times on the bottom of the feet, whatever you do earthing is not going to work, or it's not going to hold. And I've taught forever on that, so you can go through and I think you can put in to the groups what you search for, and it'll come up, right? So you can have a look at that. But the aura will disconnect because there's an extra, what we call a vortex at the heart for some people. Other people will have it at the eyes. There's different ones for different types of energetics. Okay, we're all individual, yet we all have the same energetics. They just work slightly differently depending on what layer of the aura they sit, right? So I might as well tell you. So a kinesthetic, or someone who feels deeply, that part of the energy sits closer to the body, right? But if you're a tonal or a visual or a digital, whatever, all these different ones, they sit first and then they fan out, right? So the ones that sit first are your primary energy system. So when you're stressed, that's the one that comes in. So you would hear, I've merged, integrated, but when there's stress, those ones turn on like bam. So you're all of them, you've got all of them. But there's ones that are closer, right? The one that I'm talking about now generally has the extra vortices at the womb and the heart, because we're feelers. We feel with every cell. It hurts us when somebody's upset. Like, we feel it. It hurts. It doesn't hurt me anymore. I'm going to tell you how to take hold of it. And it's basically just by doing a slow figure 8. Rebel's smiling, she remembers. Right, slow figure 8, slow infinity, very slow. If you're really struggling with magnetics and things like that, go so slow, because everybody gets in there and goes boom, 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 go like so close your eyes and make it a meditation and just do this 8. It doesn't matter what way you do the 8, whether you're left or right-handed. I'm left-handed. For some reason, I'm doing it with my right hand, or whatever. Now, back in the day, when I was like out, I wasn't on this planet. Let's just face it, right? And that's why I teach about soul embodiment, right? Because we have to come back in. But some of you are negotiating the energetics at the moment, so that reconnects that aura at that space so that it can filtrate outwards and inwards, so that you're not getting like it just jumped the hurdle and smack you in the face. Okay, so that's one that will help. All right, that's the main one. Actually, pretty much everybody who has sensitivities will have that. something going on there. So there's your process of the day. Oh, I did too, didn't I? And I can start bringing those things in again if people need that. But yeah, ask me questions and then that will show me what you're needing, what you're wanting. So I was talking about the stabilization. Okay, the other way of looking at this, so when you're feeling wobbly, so make sure you okay, let me put it in a structure and then we'll move on because I really want to talk about the natural infinity because that's why I wanted to show up today. Actually, Rebel, you said you do it often. Have you seen a shift in your stability of energy? Particularly, I guess you don't know until something comes in to shock you, but you've been wobbled a little bit lately with your dog. Have you noticed the difference in how you deal with loss and grief, or how you come back? It's okay if you don't. Like, grief is grief. But what I've noticed is that when there's grief, I'm grieving at the moment. So it's my grandmother's funeral today, hence the flowers, right? And the blue, and talking about natural infinity. So I'm going to go there in a moment. And when I was told on Friday, I was driving down for my first anniversary in the volcano, pretty much the one that erupted as we were leaving. Anyway, long story, everything happens where we go. But my brother called, actually, no, I got a message from a friend to tell me that her husband just passed, in and out of bad reception. So I was like, oh, okay. So then I wanted to get back to her as soon as I could, but we didn't have reception. By the time we had reception, I got back to her and then put my phone. Now, I just told you that I never have my phone on. And I'm sitting in this little red cabin in the, bush. I'll show you at some point the photos and stuff, but so much has happened. I just haven't had time to share all the amazingness because, we've been dealing with some stuff. But my brother called me. I heard the phone. The phone was in the other room from Australia. So it just so happened, I've got two phones, Australian one and an American one. This is just my old Australian one, but, it works in America. It's not like all fancy pants or anything, but not there's anything wrong with that, right? And my phone rang. I was like, what is that noise? And then I heard it again. He kept ringing because he said, I did not want you to hear via text. And I'm like, wow, for me to hear that in the bush, right? My phone was on. Miracle, really. Those that know me will know that's a miracle. And that's what I was told. And I had a beautiful conversation with him. And it's interesting how my family processes grief and stuff. We tend to joke and laugh, but we don't bypass it, right? We don't bypass it. We go into it. But you can see when I'm talking about stuff too, it just makes me laugh. And those that have worked with me, I had one lady who was a client and became a student, and then was helping me with the programs for a little while. But when she first started coming to me, I had to explain to her how I work, because she would be telling me her like this, my joy, right? She'll be telling me what's going on for her, and I'd be sitting there going, and she'd be crying, and I'd be like, and I had to say to her, the reason why is because I can see what's happening, and I'm excited for her, right? Have I done that to any of you? I don't do it to really, really new people. But once you understand that I can see behind, like, what's going on and the beauty of it, you're in that state. It's not an emotion, it's a state of joy. So even in my grieving today, or week really, and I cried mainly with my mum, because she was telling me how she sat with her mum for 2 hours, dead, like she's gone. Well, she hadn't quite, you know what I mean? It takes a while for, I don't know if you know this, it takes a while for the soul to leave, to move on. I felt my nan really strongly 5 days after she died. I was like, oh, there she is, which was very quick. My grandfather, I have, students have picked up more about my grandfather than me. One of my grandfathers, my dad's dad, when he passed, because I cared for him as he was, I brought him back to life a couple of times, but that's a whole nother story. Point is that there was a relationship there, a different relationship there, and he never left me for one moment. It was like, as he transitioned, he was just still with me. I was talking with him, driving the car to work, walking my dog, whatever. And the same happened with one of my dogs. It was one of my dogs that I had for 19 years. And I kid you not, it sounds like, some of my stories sound like I must be an awesome, fantasy writer or something. This is true. Maybe I should write children's stories or something. I don't know, it might scare them. I'd get out of the car, because we lived on a farm, and there was a big farm gate. So you got to get out of the car and open the farm gate. And I kid you not, I would trip over this dog spirit. I would trip over him, and out of my mouth would be his name. I'd be like if he was there, and I'd be like, you're trying to trip me over again, because he was a little dog. Not my last dog, Zar, who lived till 11. He was a Great Dane, which he was not well the last, he had cancer and stuff. But 11 they were amazed he lasted that long. But there was a point in time where I backed off any healing and stuff, because that's what happens. They just keep going and going, and their body just gives out. And it's not nice. So now for humans and for animals, I'm like, how I work now is that we align the energetics to assist with whatever way they go, right? And I'll talk about that in a moment. I believe don't hold me to it. If I don't, you can ask me questions, because this is why the blue comes in. So let me just track what I've just said, because often I don't finish points. I don't come back around till right at the end. So when you're raising or you're experiencing symptoms, whatever it is, who cares what's caused it, right? Really, who cares what's caused it? What's happening is your energetic system is going, attention, danger, right? And your energetic nervous system is kicking in and doing what it needs to do, dependent on what the process is, because there's different arms of the energetic nervous system. There are different arms of the physiological nervous system, and they come on for different things, and they produce different symptoms. Wow, who'd have thought, right? Yes, sad, but okay. Sad, but okay. Yes. It's like, so I'm just reading a comment. It's like this energy, this central core, right? When that's strong, you wobble. So someone's being diagnosed with terminal illness, wobble, 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 wobble. But the infrastructure, I don't have the drawing. I was drawing this for a client, somebody I'm working with who's not into energy at all. It's so interesting when I have people that have no understanding of energetics, and I'm doing you know, advanced processes. And so I get them on Zoom and I'm drawing pictures so that it's not all this woo-woo. There's science to it, right? There's understanding. You know what I mean? It doesn't even matter if they don't know. Like, I can do that work without you even knowing about it. If you just say, just sort this out. All right. I like to involve people in their own evolution, right? So whether it's mental health, so this was particularly psychological and mental health work, right? Powerful work. And seeing people go from wanting to not be here to strength and smiling, right? Powerful. All it is realigning these aspects of the central core, right? Because when we're traumatized, it goes out. Either way, go out this way or go out this way. That's trauma, energetically impacts that part of you. So when you've done you've been conscious of your evolution, let's say, you will have more stability in that, right? And I don't often talk about this unless I'm doing this work with you, right? In Evolver, I think we've talked about that central core and the infrastructure, which I call the scaffolding. It's like when a building's being prepared, but those grids, it's a grid system, high grid system in the human. And when we're traumatized, some of those grids go out. Why do I always say alignment, realigning? Because it's either realigning that, realigning that, realigning that, or that, or that, or that, or realigning a point of a diamond that's gone like that. So what happens if you think about blood flow? This is how I used to teach it. I haven't taught this for so long. Interesting how all the old teachings are coming back around. It's fine. Blood flow. So varicose veins, thank you. I haven't had them, but my mum and my sister have, and my mum's had them cut out, right? And I'd be like, when I was a kid, it's like, well, what happens to the blood? Where's it gone? Like, I don't understand, right? If you take a vein out of your leg, a big vein out of your leg, what happens? What happens? Do you know? So yes, no. The mind boggles. That was scary to me because it was my mum. It was my mum. My mum. Thank you, Mum. I'm going to thank her. I'll message her later. She would always say, put your feet up. Don't stand on the concrete, because, I did have a labouring job way back when, and also in the army and stuff like that. You're always on your feet and standing on concrete, those sorts of things. Always stand on a rubber mat. Even in the kitchen, things like that, stand on a rubber mat. It helps your veins, your circulation. So there's a tip from Big Mama H, right? But when that system is corrupted or taken out or something's gone on with it, how I see it is that there's micro, or what do they call it, in like spider veins, right? So if we're talking about a varicose vein, okay, well, what happened? There's other veins that can assist, right? So I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm just giving you a metaphor. What happens energetically, which I can talk more expertly about, is that when that grid goes offline, or it could just go off like that, and where it hits this other, I was going to draw you a picture. Just trying to find I was sure I bought the whiteboard out, but I didn't. All right, I'm going to draw a picture. My new journal. All right. So heaven and earth, right? This grid. So if we put a head and legs on it, right, that's part of your grid. But we've also got a central column that has all these other diamond inlays in them, or grids. But when you're traumatized, that grid can go off, right? So think of that if you're in, which my students are, because that's what they're about, conscious evolution, right? Those triangles, as we evolve, turn into what? Any guesses? Any guesses? Come on, evolve. Go back to your evolve. Right. So so we can do this, and then we can do this, and then we can do this until heaven and earth combined within your system. Some call it the Merkaba or the Merkaba, the vehicle of light, the chariot. Those of you into scripture, the chariot. Those of you into Merkaba, where else did they say that? Well, anyway, you know what I'm saying, right? Now, what do you think would happen if that energy was off? And you're working, so you haven't addressed your trauma, is what I'm saying, or you haven't addressed your nervous system, how that is regulating, right? Why did I go into trauma work? I ask myself this all the time. It's such a blessing. First of all, I was traumatized myself and was healing myself through, learning it unconsciously. Everything we do is for ourselves unconsciously. We're learning, right? But anyway, we can realign that, okay? That's an alignment. But we've also got what I was talking to Rebel about. Why did I not have all my stuff here? Okay. Sure, I grabbed. All right, it doesn't matter. This central column, right? So those yogis, those of you that are yogis, right? That central column looks like that when you look down it, or similar. There might be more circles, right? So in some yoga traditions, they talk about that. Kundalini, all of those sorts of things. Well, that little tube, which some of you from Evolver, I'm just talking about all the classes today. I'm not selling anything. So, there's nothing you can actually buy right now except for the retreat. And if you want an alignment, I have 3. I only can take 3 at a time because it takes me, these particular alignments take me more. But anyway, I'm not here to sell. This just came up. So I'm just going to say this, then we're going to move on. That little dot, how you connect to source, right? As you develop, opens up to, right? Or even, like it opens up. So it's a freeway of information rather than a little straw or a little, do you see? So people say to me, like, you can challenge me till the cows come home. I've been doing this work, experiencing it directly, have gone all over the world, have talked to the greatest masters, and they've become my friends and confidants because, right, trying to work all this out for myself, not for anyone else. Back then, I was like, what on earth? Do I need to go to a mental institution or something, right? It's interesting because I worked in mental health too, and I've talked to people and they'll tell me what they were seeing, and I'll be like, oh, that's so cool. This is how I see it. And I go, well, why are you here and I'm not? Why? Why do you think? Well, this is like a little class, isn't it? Why do you think that I never ended up needing sort of medication or support with my mental health in that way, and others did? Sort of to do with what I just talked about. Yeah. So one answer is because the way you deal with trauma, um, and the other one is alignment. Anything else? I don't know. I can't see all the um, alignment, humor. Humor. Yeah. It's to do with this central core, my stability, and how my energetic system works with. So yes, how I deal with trauma would be because of how my energetic nervous system regulates, and therefore my physiological or my physical nervous system then responds, right? So yes, and the alignment of past trauma. So your triggers, what triggers you are from your beliefs and conditioning patterns, your past. They're held in your back, in the back chakras. A lot of it. It's held in the body, your memories in the whole body. But there's specific filing cabinets in your back chakras that will hold all the experiences that you've ever had and how you negotiate those. So it's not that you don't feel and you don't get moved and you don't get a little low sometimes or a little high sometimes, right? Because they're saying this as well. And I think the Buddhists say this too. That my outcome is joy, a state of joy, not an emotion of happy or sad. I don't want to be happy. I don't want to be sad. I want to be in my everyday state. So when I get hit with a sad story, for instance, or I feel the love of, or the sensitivity, if I'm feeling your pain without working with you, I know my energy's not right. Right? Because when your energetics are strong, I don't feel anything from any of you unless I say, okay, Mercedes, right? I'm not doing it now, but if you give me permission, because I'm all about ethical energetics, never go into somebody's field without their permission, right? Even if so I've worked with people who are brain dead and those transitioning and transition. I've been working with my grandma. And it's still asking permission. And when I'm doing the energy tracking, and you've given me permission at one point and you've paid, right? It's permission to some degree. But every day, because some of them I'm tracking every day for a period of time, I'm asking every day, every single day. If I get a no, I'm not doing it, whether you say yes or not, because there's something else going on. It's very rare. And if I do get a no, it's usually because you're open to me and trust, but there's something with your energetics that needs some, I call it, it's almost like relationship work, right? So I need to build that relationship. So like anybody, if I was going to go in deep with you, it's like, well, most people will deep dive pretty quick these days, but do you understand? It's like your energy saying, no. You might be saying, yeah, you can do that. But your energy's going, boom, I'm not letting you in. And I'll be like, okay, what's going on here? How you doing? Such and so. I talk to the energy like I talk to you. I laugh and joke and all the rest of it. I've never had energetic not let me in. Because I'll be like, what do you want me to tell you, person? Right? It's like, is there something that you need a little bit of love? What is it that she's not hearing or he's not hearing that maybe I could, say in a different way for you? And they're like, oh, she's on my side. She's not just trying to change me. Because triple warmer doesn't like change. It will hold strong. It's one of the energetic arms of the nervous system. It would hold strong, won't let anything in or out. So you stay because it's in survival. So of course it's not going to allow me to move anything, because that could be to that energy your death. So I have to say, oh mate, I can see you're doing a good job, you're holding strong, right? Just having a conversation. It's so bizarre even to me, but this is how I work, this is how I've always worked, and it's just so interesting. It's about relationship. Everything to me is a relationship. Everything. It's about relationship. It's about relationship. So if we have fear, our nervous system goes off and we wobble. But most people will fall. So that central core. So if somebody, if you have a passing or just you might even be watching traumatic stuff on TV all the time, and you're just being impacted. There's a lot of people that, and you might be one of them, I don't know, that they fall, like they get hit with something, some bad news or something happened or an illness, whatever, and they fall. That central core goes to whichever way they've gone. And the infrastructure is just holding them. The core isn't holding them. It's fallen. And then before they can realign themselves, they get hit with something else. So if you look at, I can just tell you the last week and a half, fires, evacuation. On my first anniversary, my grandmother passes away. What else happened? There was a bunch of stuff that happened. Anyway, so that's enough in itself, but there was a whole bunch of other things that happened in that week. Although I got some good news from my brother in a way, right? Because of the healing we're doing there. I'm not sure how much I can say about that. He said I can tell people, but I'm sort of, I guess so why my grandmother passing, I mean, she's 98, right? Matrilineal, our matriarch of the family. But my brother calling me was a joy, because he's dealing with terminal illness, which he's not now. He is, but they say he is, but he's not. And I visioned that. I saw that. I've been working with him. I work with him through the weekdays, but I don't do it on the weekend. I've been doing that since February, and his MRI now don't show the tumor. It was 5 centimeters. They couldn't operate to get the whole thing because of where it was around the nerve in the brain, right? And he's doing awesome. And so I don't know if that gives people hope or what, but you hear miracles all the time. I just said, please don't spend all your money thinking you're going to go. Right? My daughter said that. I don't know if they're watching, but she said, Uncle Dave keeps saying, he's just he's paying. Yeah. And I'm like, please don't, because I don't think you're going. You're not going when you think you're going. And he's not. I asked the beloved, I asked Holy Wisdom, and I write it down. And each time I work, we get shown longer and longer. And so that's all I'm saying. Not making any claims or anything like that. I'm just sharing my joy of speaking with my brother, him being so well, and that outcome for him, even though my grandmother has passed. And he started off upset because our grandmother was like our mother. We still have our mum, and she's beautiful, but our grandmother was that matriarch. And I don't know any of you who've known me long enough, but I was a rebel. I was literally growing up. I had you couldn't tell me what to do. You just couldn't tell me what to do. My brother as well. We didn't trust adults, even if it was the police or any person of authority or anything, because if I didn't respect you, because it's like looking back, I could see people and I just saw lies. And my grandmother, she told me anything she told me to do, I'd be like, yep. pretty much the only person on the whole planet. She was just this strength. She never yelled. She never hit us. She never punished us. I think the punishment was disapproval. If she disapproved of something, you'd be like, oh, okay. And we were sort of wild, us kids. We lived in the bush. We were wild. We weren't parented. If my grandmother said something, I'd be like, yeah, okay. She'll be like, call your mother. Be good to your mother. All right. She was actually the one who said, go to Hawaii. Because there's so many, like, it's like, whoa. So it's like, no, you know what? You should go. I was like, all right. Nan said I should go. I'm going. I'd already made my mind up, but that was just so okay. So this is why, right? So I know I tell stories. I'm a storyteller. That's the, how we roll here most of the time. That central core, right? So you will wobble. So you'll get emotional. Or you'll think of somebody. I woke up the other morning wanting to call my grandma because I was dealing with something and I was like, I want to call my nan. And I realized, oh, I can't. And I haven't been able to call her for a long time because she was going deaf and she couldn't see and she couldn't work her phone, right, in the home. And so the only time I could call, I really could speak to her in the last, probably 6 to 8 months was when somebody else was there that had a smartphone and could, like, it was usually my daughter would fly down, or because my mum doesn't have a smartphone and all that. Anyway, my point being, and that made me a little sad, right? It's like, oh, but then I was like, oh, I'll just talk to her now, whatever. It's bizarre. So I've been painting. I've been doing a little oil painting, and as I'm painting, I'm just with her. She just is. But because it's oil paint, it's much slower and malleable, and it gives me the space to commune with her, right? So that's one of my processes. So wobble, no problem with wobbling, no problem with feeling the emotion or fear, or even going wobbling for a while. But what I've noticed over the years is that I'll be told something shocking. Actually, Eric was surprised because I got told of 2 deaths in the same day. And the first one I looked at my phone and went, oh, right? But then I went to, oh, okay, we'll do the akal for him and contact his wife and just do some texts, some supportive texts. There's a lot of people are scared of death and they don't know how to talk to people who have just lost somebody or lost a pet or are going through it themselves, right? So I think that if anything, if I was to say I had a gift, it would be that, because I'm not scared of death and I can talk about it. I can support people. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's why I go there, because I know that there's not a lot of people that know how to navigate death themselves or for their friends or family, right? And you'll notice that people will be around and be like, oh, I'm so and all the rest of it, but they're not like really, I don't know how supportive that is. Anyway, not to judge, just to say, right? To be able to talk. I helped my grandmother. This is one of the best conversations I had with my nan, was when my grandfather died. Oh, did I tell you this? She died on the same day, 3 years apart, the same day. But then her son died, my Uncle Laurie. He died. So we've had so many deaths. Like it's almost awesomely ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like, whoa. And they've all been at specific gates, times, which has assisted me to go, of course they went then. Of course. But anyway, my nan's husband of 55 years passed. And then her son on New Year's Eve not from partying or anything. He had a heart thing. Died, and then a year later, I think it was a year later, another uncle died. And then I got married, so that was something fun, I guess, and all the deaths. And then so my nan didn't cry, right? She didn't cry. She didn't get to really mourn, because I don't think people wanted to talk to her about it. So when I would call her, I'd be like, "Oh, do you remember this and how they would do that?" And like we'd just tell all these stories, and she would laugh her head off. Like I would just have her laughing her head off, and then we'd cry. Like we'd laugh in remembrance, and then we'd both start crying, and I'd be like, you know, we'd talk about the sadness, and then we'd cry together, and then we'd something that funny about it would come up, and we'd laugh together, and it'd be this like, shh, shh, shh. And I didn't know that she hadn't cried. And she said to me after that conversation, she goes, I never cried for Tiger, for my grandfather. She never got to cry. It was like, just, so she got to, so I just continued to do that. That was my role in the family. I make people cry and laugh, whatever. It's good cry, right? You gotta feel it. So where she could get back, because she's solid, right? Solid woman. All righty, we've been going for a while. So what was I gonna? Have I pulled all that together? Have I pulled all that together? Is there any pieces? So working on your energetic systems, building the strength in them, builds the strength of your, I was going to say character. I guess it is, right? When you're stressed, that's fear. When you're in fear, there's a trigger. Something's there. Maybe fear of survival, fear of being too intimate with someone, whatever it is. And then what do? We project our fear onto the other person. And often we do that, don't we? Often we do that when somebody is dying, they have, in some way, I know I'm a little upside down and back to front, but it's such a blessing. And Rebel, I feel like you'll get this too, because of how you got to ask your beloved Hamish, right? You got to ask him, just like I got to ask all my dogs and my llama, right? Well, my llama, she didn't have much of a choice. She was like 20, 26, and they only lived 25 to 30 years. So all my animals lived long age because I heal them. I'm like, can't just get right. She just died of old age, but I sat with them all until they left their body, and sometimes that was a long time, and I would feel them leave, right? And then we go like, okay, now we can bury them. They're all buried on my property over there. We had to get a forklift, like a big backhoe digger for the two llamas. Both, or one died young. She broke a leg and they couldn't fix it. So it's like horses when they break a leg. But so that was traumatic. But all the rest are old age. But having the beauty of being able to die well. So my grandfather, my dad's dad, like being able to talk to him and say, what else do you need to do or say? Right? Any unfinished business. Reflect on your life, or whatever it is. What do you need? Like in the end, I used to just go in there and massage his arms and face and skin with moisturizer, because he would just be all, I tell the nurses to do it, but I don't know whether they did. But touch is healing. Right? And that's the 2 times that he came back was because I would love him through his arms. When I went to say goodbye, they thought he was dead. I held his hand, and then I just loved it. I just rubbed his arms, closed my eyes and rubbed his arms. And then he came back and was like, whoa. And so when he did go, when he didn't come back, I wasn't there. Like, the nurses found him. He'd fallen because it's probably where I get it from. He was a bit of a smart ass and would get around all the safety precautions, because they'd say, don't get out of bed. And he'd be like, I'm getting out of bed. And he'd go around the alarm mat into the bathroom, because he'd be like, I'm going to the bathroom by myself. Well, he kept falling, didn't he? And so that's how he apparently that's how he died. That's what they told me. Right. It's that, yeah. I got a lot of, it's probably why I connected with him a lot, because he was always joking and laughing and, practical joker. All right, so why was I telling you that story? Because we get the chance to say what we need to say and to be and care. And even though it gets really hard, the toileting and if there's wounds and all sorts of stuff, like, it's not pretty at all. Any of you have done anything like that for an animal or a human. It's tough. That's what my mum remembers. I don't want to tell too much of what she did, but my nan's hands. My nan was an artist. She was a pianist. She got her degree playing the piano, and then went into ragtime and all of that type of music back in the day, when she started playing at 16, and she taught us. Anyway, but she was a creator in a different way. She was an artist, and her hand, she had cancer in her hand, and it was all eaten away because she didn't want it treated. She just wanted to go. It was time for her to go, and she didn't want to go. But there was a lot of fear there. So my mum's memory of her hands, but I cast her hands years ago, cast all the family's hands. So at some point I'll give my mum my nan's hands that were complete. If she wants, might be a bit morbid for some people, but yeah. All right, so the blessing of having time, right? The blessing of having time, and the blessing of going quick. So we had both of them on Friday. One was instant, and one was long time coming. All right, so let's light a candle. I think we're way over time. I've been going forever. Storytelling today. Maybe I need to storytell. Maybe that's my processing. So the orchid, my nan loved orchids. And so on Friday, when I heard, I was like, I think we'll get an orchid, and just as a symbol for my nan. But I also got Queen Esther. And Queen Esther, I'm going to go into the whole story of Queen Esther, but Queen Esther was and not to offend anybody, it's not like we're doing religions here or anything like that, right? But Queen Esther is a matriarch that I connect to. And she reminds me of the ability to be complete in yourself, and then to choose from there, particularly in relationship, I guess. So in the story of Esther and the king, the other queen, the queen that was beheaded, so to speak, was Vashti. Vashti is the ego. And she wanted to be equal with the king. And so every time he had something to say, she would say something to meet him or be better than him, right? Is that any of you? Anyone relate to Vashti? She was very smart. I can see that the Vashti in many of us, and myself included, right? Especially when I was telling you about the authority stuff. That's Vashti. That was like, I don't trust you. And I think I know better. I have, I can't quite see the truth there. Even as I'm saying like maybe 8 years old, 9 years old, I was just like, that's not true. Okay. The teachers trying to teach me something they don't really know, they haven't embodied. It's like, is that right? So, I mean, I honor all of them because they taught me to think. They taught me to find out my own answers, all of that. But a little bit of Vashti in there, right? Ego, right? I can't trust you. I can't surrender to you. So I have to hold strong here. It sort of resonates to a lot of the to some of the feminist movements in particular, where they're trying to be the same as men rather than be powerful women. And I did women's studies at uni, all that. And what I'm saying here is, for women in particular, Queen Esther was an awesome matriarch to show we don't have to fight the men or be like the men who power over, not all men. I'm not talking about all men. Don't write to me about, but I love men. It's the masculine. What I'm talking about is how we are working on our evolution, and rather than being who we are and growing that power to whatever that is, we're looking outside and saying, well, they have the power or the perceived power. We see that they have the power, or, the wealth and whatever it is, whatever that fear is, right? So how did they get there? Oh, we will do the same and overpower others, steamroll them, right? And I can say that I've done that. Being in the army, I became one of them. I lost my identity. I became a soldier. And when I realized that, it scared the pants off me. And I was like, oh my God. And it was a realization. I was one of the guys. I was a section commander. I was in an infantry unit. I was teaching the infantry soldiers. I was outfield with the guys. I was their section commander. And then I was doing my sergeant courses, right? And the reason I didn't go any further is because at that time they wouldn't let females go into combat. They do now. So that's why I didn't get my, I got my, like there's different education for sergeants, and I was able to do all the office and, different training, but I wasn't allowed to do the field training, right? Because that would be combat. I was allowed to do it as a corporal, but not as a sergeant, because that was too much power for a female. And I was only in my 20s too. But that was my goal in 5 years, to make sergeant. And I was on track too. I was like, boom, 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 boom. I was a machine, right? But I didn't know who I was then. I'd lost myself. I'd lost my identity even as a woman or a man. Like I didn't know. I was just a machine doing my job, making sure people's lives were right, because my decisions meant who lived and died. Or, same within the trauma work, funnily enough. The decisions I made impacted so many people's lives. So it's like that, boom, 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 boom. But when I realized, hey, hang on, I'm this woman. I'm this woman. And then I went around. It was funny. I reckon, like, I could sort of see myself. I had we had this manual of gender equality. And I could see myself with it under my arm, marching around, going, because I'd shifted. I was like, no, I've been doing all of this work. I've been getting, like, all my bosses liked me, thought, I was an excellent soldier. I was like number 2 or 3. I could strip and assemble a machine gun, second fastest in the battalion, blindfolded. Right, I was an awesome soldier. Right, I trained because I had to be better than them because I was female. I had to be more regulated, more, right? But I learned so much. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. My point being, I didn't know who I was anymore because I was out to be better than, to prove that women could do. And then I was like, this isn't working. But needless to say, I'd like to think in some small way I had some breakthroughs in, what women are, and, they, all of those people that saw who I was and all the rest of it could see that if we wanted to, we have the ability, right? It's not that, most of you are probably like, oh, I don't want to be digging holes out in the bloody rain, all the rest of it. So I'm going all over the place today. We're getting story time galore. All right, so Vashti, that was her. And she ended up head on a plate because she pushed too much. She pushed too much. It's like, fighting to get what you want. Fighting to get what you want. So you're either going to kill or be killed in as a metaphor, right? So head on the plate. Poor Vashti. Rest in peace. That's the ego. The ego is killed. Queen Esther comes along, or Esther, she wasn't queen. Anyway, I don't want to go into the whole story, but she was about devotion, loving devotion, but not needing. It's not like, it's almost like a surrendering in her completeness. So when I met Eric, I was complete. Like I didn't feel I needed a relationship. I had a relationship with the beloved. It was a very intimate relationship. I never felt that I wasn't in communion. It's constant, right? So what else would I need? I no longer needed another person to fulfill me. So when we think about complete, majority of relationships, I say majority because it's what it is. Because of our past and how we're imprinted and our traumas, it's almost like it leaves a void or a hole or a wound, or however you want to look at that. And then what we do is we look outside for someone who will soothe that wound, or will understand that wound, is probably more correct from my experience. It's like the radar. All right, they've got similar experience, which may not be helpful. Or they may understand the difficulties you've been through and therefore not be able to regulate. So they trigger you like nothing else. They know all the buttons. So in the relationship, all you're doing, and I mean, there's a reason for it too. All you're doing is pushing each other's, it's like your wound hasn't healed and your partner's just pushing it. But your wound's nearly healed and they'll scrape the scab off it. Push it. I'm being graphic because I want you to remember, right? It'll be like, oh, I don't like that person, or I'm not drawn to that person because I don't feel anything in my body. Oh, really? Oh, really? This is awesome. I could do a whole course on this. Because when you feel in your body, it's a fear. So when you find your beloved and you're like, hey, little one. I don't know if you can hear him. Got my little Urkels coming up. Hey, little ones. All right. So when you're feeling, it's all the nervous system triggers. It's a fear of love. It's a trigger. It's a remembrance. It's a familiarity. Oh, I've got some awesome stories on this. Maybe I'll make a note and come back and talk about human love and what we think it is and how these feelings, because it baffled me when I because I was so sensitive. I was feeling all this and I'm like, how can I have all of that? And I realized, it's not love. It's I'm feeling their wound. And they've all got the same wound. They all had the same wound. And it was all within, like, they were all my friends, right? But I could feel them the same. And I'm like, oh, so interesting. And I talked to one of my dear friends who is an energy practitioner. And I was saying, have you ever experienced this? And it's like, maybe here or there, but all of these people. And I started to look at it. I started to be curious about the energetics of it. And I realized, this is what's showing me. And I've watched it ever since with men, with women, like how you feel it in the body and what that's telling you. If it feels pleasurable, you think, this must be the one. But no. It will blow your mind. That person may just be the same frequency as your trauma. It's familiar. It feels warm and cuddly, right? Because that's what your pain ends up feeling like, comfortable. I know that pain, so I'm good with that. When I met Eric, I felt nothing. Nothing. A beautiful nothing. There was nothing to hook onto. There's nothing for the ego to push, hang on to. I was like, And the same for him. So technically we would say, that person, we could bypass them. Wouldn't we? This could be a huge aha for some of you. A huge aha for some of you. I call him my cone of silence. And I treasure that cone of silence because I get data from everywhere, all the time, 24/7. I'm never in silence and I'm never in darkness. Eyes open or closed, I see, right? A cone of silence is such beauty to me. Right? So I don't know if that's something, you can agree or disagree. I'm good. I'm just telling you my direct experience and how we've navigated that and we've discussed it. So my point being that those ones that knock you off your feet with all the feeling doesn't mean it's not there, but it's like there's a lot of fears there to work through. So if you're not willing to do the work, like really do some hard work, look, you could just go there and have the experience, and come out the other end and go, all right, well, next one I'll maybe do things differently, right? But that wound or that antenna or that frequency or that feeling, it's a fear. And it can be a familiar one or an unfamiliar one. And your body will be trying to navigate. And ultimately, you are coming together to heal each other in some way or to heal yourself via, right? Until you get to Esther. because that's not what she's doing. She's complete. She doesn't need any of them. She was they call her, in the scriptures, they call her the savior of the Jews, right? Or the people. The savior of the people. Which is controversial to some people because, you know, what is the savior? But she was the savior of, in that time, of those people. The king wanted the Jewish people gone because of another darkness. I was going to say Hanuman. It's the other one. It sounds like that. Hanan. Is that right? Hanan. I'll say Hanuman. That's the monkey god. That's Ram Dass, monkey god. Anyway. Oh, so many of you out there. But anyway, oh, you should have heard me yesterday teaching about the blue. Oh my goodness, all the different blues in spirituality and what they mean. But I'm not going into that today. That's higher teachings. But okay, so you get the gist. She is merging. She is giving us choice. She was the last miracle. I'm going to turn this phone off. It's running out of battery. She was seen as the last portal. So funnily enough, we're talking about portal today, right? Or this gateway, portal, gateway. So in my little, I've got this little candle here. We're going to light it. It's from Green Sands Beach. It's not really, it's olive sand. Anyway, Green Sands Beach. So that's our little candle. And this candle is from Israel as well. I got it with the anointing oil. I just wanted to see what the frequencies was. So sometimes I get different objects from different places. So she's the bridge. The bridge. So I was wondering why I was telling you about the masculine, feminine, all that sort of stuff. But she is that bridge, that portal to follow her to the beloved or to the masculine, right? So it's like the masculine and the feminine standing complete for union. And so that's why she became Queen Esther. I mean, it's a long story. Maybe I'll tell you one day. Oh, actually, I'm going to start my ministry soon. I'm putting it off. I don't know when. I'm saying soon. It might be, you know, I'll let you know last minute. But it'll probably be a Sunday morning, my time, which God knows what that is for you. And then I can tell you stories. I can tell you the stories and unpack the scriptures for you and whatnot, the mystical understandings. But that just reminded me. So they both wore the crown, right? So they both wore the crown. They weren't fighting over the crown. They weren't fighting over the royal kingdom. They both wore the crown. They stood complete to get complete individually so that they could unite complete. Not triggering, not fighting, not one over the other. This is why I got a Queen Esther anointing oil. I can't wait till I can start seeing you. I'm working on, it scares the bejeebies out of me, just letting you know. But I saw it 2 years ago. This is what I'm supposed to be out there doing. And going around and teaching in person, right? Just going around, and that would be my ministry. So I have the anointing oils. I'm preparing, but it still freaks me out a little bit, all the travel and everything. But that's what I'm called to do. Then we'll do that. So this is why the ancestry of Esther is here today, and also her actions and what she teaches is important to me. Whether it's important to you or not, that's okay. It could just be a nice little story for you. But there's certain, particularly the women, the matriarchs, the ancestral sort of, matriarchs in the scriptures. A bunch of them have been coming to me over the years, right? Before that, it was deities, usually, I won't go into that, but, and they have been showing me. So the main ones have been Sarah, Esther was for quite a while. Sarah was for quite a while, and she showed me, she gave me my marriage vows and the process and the understanding of the circle and the line and the rise of the feminine and how, the different layer, like she showed me it all. And then Esther, and then recently Rachel and Leah. And that was interesting because it took me a bit to get who they were, because I'm not, I wasn't brought up religious. I don't, right? I'm a mystic. I never went to Sunday school. I think I went to Sunday school twice when I was like 5. Other than that, never went. Like, I do not know the scriptures the way other people were brought up. I'm not a religion. I'm not, all of that. They come in, they show me, they merge with me, and I speak with, as them, with them, to share their teachings, right? So we've gone back to Esther because my grandmother, the matriarch, right? And being complete and ready to merge. So I'm going to light the candle because otherwise I'll be here all day. What day is it? Wednesday? Wow, that went quick. I was just thinking what else I had to do today. I do have an alignment to do. Oh, it's windy. All right, let's see. So the blue. I don't think the candle's going to stay lit. The blue. So how long have we got? Well, we've gone, what time did I start? 9, 10. So we've gone well over time. So why is the blue important today? Because as my grandmother transitions and travels, we talk about the blue ethers. I want to show you this candle, but it's a bit windy out here, so I might have to do this again another day. Let's see if I can put it up so that you can see it. Maybe no. Okay. I wanted to show you the flame. Let's see, I'll try again. Okay. I'll show on Instagram. On Instagram, it's got the filter on so you can't see the color. I want you to look at the color. I want you to light a candle and look at the colors of the candle, and then I'm going to come back and teach you another day. I talked about it the other day. But some of you will see the blue in the candle. And the basic teachings about the candle, it's a metaphor for the soul, right? Reaching to the beloved to go home. And how, so the candle's gone out. It's just too windy here today, which is thankfully because it's so humid here. So the wax as the matter, right? You can't have flame without fuel, right? So whether it be wood, it's earth, something from the earth to kindle, latch on, to ignite. So the candle flame, or the candle and the flame, is a metaphor for the soul. And I'll go deeper into that when I do like a full sort of ministry, because there's so many layers to that. It's quite a deep and ongoing teaching, but also practice. And so when we see the blue and the mystic path, you will eventually see the blue. And if you're not on the mystic path, you'll eventually see it when you pass over, because we have the blue ethers, and you pass through the blue ethers. But you can access them while you're still alive, which is what we do, right? And there's different levels, different layers. And so my grandmother will be passing through her ethers. Hamish will be, Anthony, all the people. Oh, can you hear the donkey? There's donkeys in Hawaii. There's a donkey. Anyway, it's next door neighbor's donkey. I love it. So we have the blue, and the blue of the flame is at the bottom. So I'm just going to give you a hint to this teaching, because it's something we go deeply into in class. But a lot of you aren't in that. But if you wanted to, you could maybe do the next round, which isn't until next year anyway. But so how do I want to say this? So if you've been watching over the last few weeks, I have talked about the blue and the Shekinah and the Shlina and Shakti, Kundalini energy, Kalima, Adi Shakti, all of these different. And I mean, there's a lot of males too. Like yesterday I was talking about Krishna, the blue being, the blue Buddha is a healing Buddha. Another one. I've got a whole teaching on all the blues, right? From my direct experience, like what I've experienced, but also from Pinocchio, the blue fairy, the blue lady. Consciousness is blue. So my practice and how I commune is with the blue. And we'll go into that more and more, because she's asking me to teach it again. And that is the core of basically the mystic ministry, is accessing and how and why that. So just for instance, you've probably heard me say, you know, at Jesus's baptism, baptism is water, right? Baptism by water. There's baptism by fire, and that's what Sai's about, baptism by water and fire. That at his baptism, I've got to remember what gospel it was, because I wasn't shown this till after I experienced it. And I think it was the Gospel of Thomas. And he said that Jesus said, "Holy wisdom, she rests in me." Some of you will remember this. I taught it a while back, because when I came across that, I just cried, because that was my experience. That she rests in me. That she rests in me. And she comes more and more and more and more into you, until you are and you speak as like holy wisdom resting. Now, the blue of the flame represents holy wisdom, that aspect of God that is The lower. So I'm learning biblical Hebrew, right? I've probably got to study. That's probably what I should be doing today too, studying for tomorrow, because that's where my class is. And that's why I'm not doing Thursdays anymore, because I come off that class and I'm like, huh? I'm just like, whoa, because the language, the Aramaic and the Hebrew, the biblical Hebrew, not modern Hebrew, biblical Hebrew is so full of light. And as they're speaking about certain things, I'm relating it to what I'm being shown, like the mystical aspects of it. I'm like, whoa. So anyway, there's a lower and a higher. And in have you seen, I'm going to write it, because I've seen a lot about this this word. It's a name for God, and people pronounce it incorrectly because there's no vowels in it, right? Now so I guess this is an example of what you'll get in the ministry, okay, right? But there's two, what we call hays. So it's not called a H in Hebrew, it's hay or het. There's two, a hay and a het. But there's a lower hay and an upper hay. That's the name of God. It's a lower hay and an upper hay. And it even is a dalet in another version of it, which is a D. A dalet it's called, well, it's like it's Hebrew alphabet, right? It's D, dalet. D. And before it can get to the hay, it has to go through transformation. Now, these letters are the scriptures, are the evolution process. I'm telling you, in any system, I can show you this stuff. I started showing it in Tamil and Hindi texts and stuff. That's where it started, because that's who came to me, Vishnu and Kali Ma came a lot. She's the blue to me. Like, anyway, certain deities would come. And it was interesting, when I mapped them out, they were levels of consciousness. And when we look at Hebrew, or even the Sephirot, or the Torah, and even the Old Testament, which is the Torah, basically, or the New Testament, right? Well, not so much New Testament, that's sort of Jesus, right? But the process of conscious evolution, it's there. It's just coded. So it's like, once you know it, you can see it in everything. So so the lower hay and the upper hay. So the lower aspect, or one aspect of God, and a higher aspect of God that we can't touch into, or higher light that we can't touch into, the concealed light. But on the flame, we've got the blue and the different layers up to the white, right? The white light. And then how it's a whole mechanism of how, as a flame, the heat is at the top. And the reason why a certain transformation isn't happening at different levels is because there's not enough heat. So a little crumb of another teaching is the process of Kundalini activation, full activation. There needs to be enough fission, heat, for the transformation to happen, right? And there is a science of it. I have worked with a lot of scientists over the years, talking about the processes and how that works, and it's a lot. So I might warn you when I'm going to talk about that stuff, so that you can turn up or not turn up, because it's like, we're talking about nuclear fission within the physical body. Now that flame is different is doing different things at different points, and how the light comes about is from the transformation of the carbon particles and the illumination of that. It's what happens within us. That flame. So my students at the moment are contemplating the flame, right? So I'm sharing that with you. They get the full teachings, but I'm just giving you little snippets. Contemplating that flame as your earth to heaven journey. And all the information is there if you know what you're looking for. But even if you don't, meditating on that process of the consumption of the fuel of earth by the blue, by the female aspect of God, destructive force and creative force, right? It's what they call Kali as well, Kalima, the devourer and the birther. So this blue is that aspect of the mother. She will destroy and she will create, give birth. But she needs fuel. And we are the fuel. Right? We are the fuel. And there's different ways we can fuel her. We can be devoured by her, or we can be with her. We can surrender. Holy wisdom rests in me. We can assist the process. Oh, this is going deep, all right? So just close your eyes. We can assist the process of the great mother, her journey back to her beloved. We are part of that process. We are part of that process. As she's at the bottom of that flame, Malhut, right? Royalty at the bottom, but she's really at the top, because look at that flame. The flame is one, but it has the black, the blue, the orange, sometimes red, sometimes yellow, white. And then it'll have a halo around it, an aura around it. There's all these different aspects. They are all showing you something. Meditate on the flame. All traditions talk about meditating on the flame, right? But this will give you something else. And then I can start to talk about it in a deeper way. But there, yes, the lower and the upper, the masculine and the feminine. Not that there's necessarily masculine and feminine, right? But that's the way I'm describing it. The blue of the mother, right? The soul reaching for spirit. The soul to spirit. How we can connect is through the soul connecting to holy wisdom, allowing her, doing your whatever work that you need to do for yourself to be able to hold that, meaning to surrender to allowing that energy. And if for whatever reason, it's probably because you have a fear of it. A lot of you have told me about the fear of connecting with certain aspects of God, right? It's been a no-no. It's because you're going for the high, you're going for the one that's going to burn you. You can't, I mean, I don't like to say you can't. It won't show itself to you directly anyway. It just won't, right? So that concealed light is concealed for a reason. But the process of rising soul to spirit reveals the highest light, primordial light, so that it can come down. We can't go there. But we can touch into different levels of this. And the blue is the key. So this is what we're going to focus on. And we can access very high levels of the blue while we're still embodied, right? You do not have to wait until you've passed, which is what a lot of people have said. And that is true if you haven't done the work, if you haven't done your evolution, your conscious evolution, you're not conscious of the processes, and working for that goal, for that communion. And back when I really taught these, like, I'm just thinking back, it's, you know, you start seeing, you just start, like, even if you saw that color, there's something about this color now. It can't quite, it was only recently, because people had asked me, what's the blue look like? And I couldn't find it. And I'm an artist, so I know tones and stuff, right? And I was trying to, so like the closest, it's sort of like an electric. There are different blues, but there was a particular, it's not even quite this. But recently, or fairly recently now, in recent history, probably 5 or 6 years, they found a new pigment, a new blue pigment. Did you hear about this? And when I saw the ad, I was like, that's it. That's the color. I can't for the life of me remember what it's called now, because that's just what happens. If I see things and they go and but it doesn't really matter. It's just not a light blue. It's not like this. Right? It's not a light blue. And it changes from, it's more this like an electric blue. Actually, I can show you this. I didn't have a thing, so I grabbed my I grabbed a skirt. Look at it. It's like this electric, beautiful, lush, right? Blue. I was like, I don't have a and I love this blue, but I can't wear blue. I was telling the girls yesterday, because I have so much blue in my field that it's too much for me. So, you know, each to their own. You know, some people have a lot in their field, and can wear, you know, a lot of blue. Like I wear highlights of blue, but you'll rarely see me. I've got one blue t-shirt that I wear a lot because I haven't got a lot of clothes here, and I'm not a shopper. I tend to wear the same t-shirts all the time. You know, it's too hot to wear any of the clothes. Alrighty, so just introducing to the blue. So we're going to, what I'm going to do is just I'm just going to anoint. I'm actually going to anoint myself, the top of the head, for all of you, right? Why the top of the head? Well, we could do the ajna too, and we can also do the tops of the feet. There's certain oils that do certain things, but the top of the head, there's a metal point there. So if you're in grief, or you're feeling a lot of loss, sadness, sorrow, you can like lay down or get comfy in a seat and lean your hand, you know, or even go to the side. I was doing it this morning. I was just holding this the top of the head. It assists with that. It's to do with the metal element, which is lung and large intestine, which is, you know, grief, sadness, sorrow, those sorts of emotions, and when they're misaligned, right? When there's a lot of stuff going on, so you can just hold that if ever you know, going through something. So I was holding that a lot last night. just allowing that to release. So a lot of times I just do things, maybe I was supposed to tell you. I find myself, I wake up and I just pay attention. Oh, where are my hands? Sometimes I sleep like this, which is a different one. Doing the liver points and the top of the head. But this morning it was this one. I haven't done that one for a long time. And I was like, oh, okay, that's metal. All right, that's, regulating. So there's another little tip. If your energies are all over the shop and you're feeling like, there's some loss or grief or stuff coming up, you could do that one. So I was anointing that just in reverence of the powers of Esther, Queen Esther, and what she represents within the evolutionary journey, from the rise to the rose, right? From the lower to the upper, and doing that in her own power, and not fighting for power necessarily, but being complete within herself, meaning you do your own work. Stop trying to fix everyone else, do your own work. And within your own power, you can then meet with people more intimately, more truthfully, right? So you can all wear the crown eventually. So I put my crown on for you today. Did you notice? I didn't have a blue one, it's green, the closest. Okay, anything else that I wanted to say? Any questions? So we all have the spark of Esther. We all have the spark of the ancestors. Okay, I'm just reading the chat. Yeah. So if you feel like you're in survival mode or fear of not surviving, just start noticing. I mean, it seems simple, but it's like you got to, I guess, what I call contact at first. Like, what is the fear? Okay, I feel something. I don't quite know what it is. And maybe journal or do some drawing, some creativity, and just see whether you can connect with it, right? It's not the whole story. It'll be like, oh, I'm scared of, or that fear. I used to fear that. That used to impact me. Or when you were triggered by someone or something, what was that about? What old wind is that? Where's that coming from? What is it showing me? What's it wanting from me? What's it wanting me to listen to? So we can see some of these matriarchs and patriarchs. It depends how you roll. I tend to go with the matriarchs in this particular way, purely because I guess it's related to the blue, and that is the mystic path, the sounds and the connecting to the blue. Jesus was a mystic. They're all the mystically inclined, right? And this mother energy, this powerful mother energy, or powerful aspect of God, if you want to look at it that way, because it's almost diminished by a language. I find myself when I say, the mother energy, it's almost diminished nowadays. When I used to speak about it, it was like, and now it's like, oh yeah, mother, yeah, all right. So from the drop, she's here. And she's part of all of us. We have that spark, and she's holding that space while we work ourselves out. We work ourselves out. She rests within us. And we assist her, however you want to look at it, to merge with the higher aspects of spirit. God, beloved, Hashem, whatever you want to, the white light, the blue to the white light. If you look at Rhombus Healing Arts, I don't know if you'll see it on any of this. The ones that are on Rhombus Healing Arts Facebook page, you'll see it. The image that I made years ago, that's what I see. And it's all the blue with the white star in the middle, all of that. It's the blue to the white. It's the gate. It's what all mystics, masters are working towards, seeing that gate and then moving through the gate into the white. Right? So that's the journey if you choose. Otherwise, you can just come for entertainment. All righty, let's do a little circle and we'll finish up, because I will spend the rest of my day here otherwise. And I haven't even had breakfast. It's 11:11 here. I'll light the candle again, because the wind's gone down now. So just connecting with each other in circle, and knowing that if at any point in time you need a little bit of extra love, a little bit of extra hope in your day, that you can reconnect to the energy of this circle and drink from the living waters. Sip, drink, or some of you might want to swim into the oceans. And I'm just going to share this, and it might sound a little odd or a little religious, but knowing that if we have direct access to the beloved, right, and we do through the blue, if that makes sense, because the candle is one, yet there's different levels of the candle, but it is one. Do you understand? Meditate on the candle, understand that, so that when you know you're an individual, but you're also one. So when we say we access direct, we are accessing through the levels to the beloved. When you're struggling and you're asking, why, what if, I'm going to tell you this. How you can use a piece of scripture, because basically you just have to seek first, right? Seek first. Every time you have a question, you can say, seek first the kingdom. Now the kingdom is Malchut, which is the Shekinah, which is the blue. Seek first the kingdom of heaven. Seek first the kingdom of heaven. Seek first. You know, say like, I don't even know what the rest is. I'm just saying, when you're struggling and you're asking all of this, if you just sit and every time it's like, why? Well, what if I did this? Or it's my fault, I could have done that, and oh, they're doing this and that, but not. Seek first, seek first, seek first, until no question comes up. And so, Mercedes, if so I'm going to ask you a question. Why did you come today? And you're going to say, seek first the kingdom. I'll say to Rebel, why do you think Hamish went when he did? And you're going to say, seek first the kingdom of heaven. Right? Or I'm going to say, it's interesting how my grandmother died the same day. Seek first the kingdom of heaven. See how you go. If you don't want to say kingdom of heaven because there's still some fear or some, like, pay attention to that. Because I remember one student, I never used to say the word God. There was such a hit on it. Because words have been bastardized in my world. Like, I feel the words, and when I speak, the word has to fit that frequency, and often it doesn't. And it's like, that's my goal, is to have language, and I think that's why I'm learning different languages, to be able to have the frequency that is more correct. But until that time, we've got what we've got, and it was because the words have so much fear on them, culturally, you know, community, or your past, you know, if you went to church and you had a bad experience, or your parents did, or you don't like what's on TV, or all the rest of it. It's not about any of that. It's about the blue to the white, the blue to the white, the blue to the white, the blue to the white. It could be the blue to the red to the white, the blue to the red to the white, the blue to the red to the white. I mean, there's different ways that can show. Seek first. Just say seek first, seek first, seek first, seek first. It's just another meditation, but there's potency on that. Because when something's chanted, that's why a lot of the mantras that have been said, or even the scriptures of different, it doesn't matter what scriptures, you know, all around the world have been said for thousands of years by hundreds of thousands of people. They have a charge. They have a charge, right? So you can tap into that charge. So that's why I'm teaching about the blue thread now rather than the red thread. The blue thread. We went from the red thread. Do I have my red thread here from yesterday? No, I put it away. The red thread to me, and there's thousands of people who are connected to me through the red thread as well. I'm bringing the blue thread because that's my direct experience. And the blue thread is a little less physical, whereas the red thread is more about, you know, connecting to the mother in a slightly different way. But it's more for me about connecting to all of you in community, right? Tugging on the red thread. Like, it's more about the earth. The blue is more about connection to holy wisdom and honoring and having a devotional experience with the blue. Using her, using it for your power. For that to be working through you as you, to help her, or that aspect of God, merge because of the split. We are the wax. We are the matter. We are the wood for the fire. We are the fuel. So there you go. All right. So just know you can connect in. even watching any of the videos, just have them playing in the background. You know, you just have them playing in the background while you're doing whatever you got to do, or while you're driving along, and just have that frequency. You know, especially as we're going along, when we're going to start really going places. I will be probably, so my goal, it'll probably be on Mystic Ministry. I don't think I'll be streaming everywhere for when I start the formal, you know, I guess, what would you call them? I don't even know what to call it, right? Sort of sermon, ministry, sharing. I've just been calling it ministering, but there will be some deep dives into the words and the meaning and how you can bring it into your everyday life. So I'm just going to work out when to start that, and it'll be soon because it's really pushing now. So all right, we best go and go to bed, or go and have lunch, or in my case go and have breakfast before it's lunchtime, or maybe I'll have a breakfast lunch. I'll have a brunch. I'll have a brunch. So yeah, embrace the aspect of the blue. And if you're interested, go to Mystic Ministering Facebook. Is it a Facebook page? There's an Instagram page and there's a Facebook page. It's not a private group. There is a private group on there, but it's not active. So if you ask to join that, it's not. I should try and delete that. It's a public one, right? So Mystic Ministering, you'll see me there in a white flower outfit thing from my 50th birthday. That's when I married myself. It's true. Yeah, there you go, Mercedes. That's why you'll see I more often than not, I'll send you a blue heart. That's what it means. All right, so may the blessings be, and seek first, right? Seek first. Go to the blue. Seek first and just sit. And may holy wisdom rest in me. And that's what Shekinah means. Resting place. Resting within. Resting within. May she rest within you. And may you continue your soul to spirit journey. Till we meet again, may the blessings be. And if this was helpful, share it with your people, or share it on your page, so that we can get people into the ministry, where we'll go really deeply into that. Okay, much love.